The situation in ABA Abia State where 5 military personnel were killed. And joining us is Major General Chris Olukolade, retired, a former defense spokesman. Thank you very much for joining us on TVC News at 10. It's not been too long when soldiers were killed in Okwama in Delta State. Now we have another dastardly act against military officers. The president has said these are not signs of weakness on the part of the state. Do you really think that the message of the president will boost the morale of the troops?
Well, thank you for this privilege to make a comment on this situation. Indeed, the comment of Mr. President is very encouraging, and we believe it's a good promotion of the position. Even if we are not using the language of retaliation, the fact is that the trend, the tendency, and the frequency of these incidents is becoming disturbing. If we look at what happened at Okwama recently, and the approach is similar. Now, when terrorists begin to influence their activities by cultism and use soldiers for such experiment, it should just not be tolerated. The attempt to use this as a means of intimidating the state and the military is an act of terrorism on its own, for the fact that the military will not be demystified. And if that's the intention of the terrorists, it's unfortunate, but I'm sure the military will not tolerate that, because the future of the state of Nigeria itself depends on the potency of the armed forces. The fact that recently restraint have been preached and inculcated in the personnel does not mean they want to be cannon fodder for some criminals roaming around the place. I looked at the similar incidents back in 2021. So if it's becoming a trend, it should simply not be tolerated. It should be nipped in bud as quickly as possible. And I believe that the Nigerian military will do it most professionally.
All right. Now, we understand that the military has manned those zones, just like they did in Okwama. In seeking justice, should it be the function of the military or the police?
Well, the justice in this instance will be to fish out the criminals and present them to face the law. But beside that, the operational angle of this should also not be jettisoned. It means the military will step up its means of either apprehending the criminals or ensuring that similar incident never ever happens in that vicinity. Like I said, the frequency, the tendency, and trend is disturbing. This in itself must have made the military adjust its own position in this mission. Therefore, it's not all about law enforcement, it's about enhancing operations in that area. And if it leads to apprehension of the criminals, why not? But even beyond that, it should position the military in such a way that bloody criminals cannot just eliminate soldiers and get away with it. Now, like I said, this is a trend, is perhaps a device or a game to demystify the Nigerian armed forces. It will not and should not be allowed.
All right. I hear you, but then what should be the rules of engagement by the military in fishing out perpetrators of this dastardly act?
Well, normally the rule of engagement quite often is as confidential as possible, but I can assure you to conform with the standards of the laws of armed conflict, as well as the principles of human rights protection, which I know the military has upheld in very high standard. Perhaps that is what is encouraging these terrorists to think that the military has lost its potency. That impression will soon be cleared, I believe.
All right, then. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective with us. Former defense spokesman, Major General Chris Olukolade, retired. Thank you for your time on TVC News at 10.
Thank you for the opportunity.